So I listened to that conversation with your dad. It was a yeah, just a really cool chat. He seems like a interesting guy with a really interesting life story. He grew up in Nigeria. He lived through the Nigerian Civil War, and also in Nigeria, they've had like persistent inflation over the years. I
Oh
pulled
boy.
up a chart related to this. Yeah, it's 1994 to 1995. They had a peak annual inflation rate of 72.83%.
Yeah.
Um, and the core economic drivers, it says number one, excess money supply, of course. Number two, it says currency collapse, which, yeah, obviously. Number three is political instability. There was 1988, 99, or 89. It was up to 59%. In 2024, so just a couple years ago, it was like 34 plus percent, it said. And then 1970s, they had it up to about 30% as well. This was during the post-Civil War rebuilding. And so that's like one, two, three, four major not hyperinflation, but very serious inflation, anywhere from 30 to 73% about in different times. So that was peak annual inflation rates. So four of those in your lifetime. I wonder how you saw that shape your dad's approach to money, what lessons he kind of passed along to you from that, how that influenced your study of Bitcoin. Yeah.
Interesting question. Not something I've ever pondered, let alone been asked. I mean, gosh, my parents tell me about when they were like kids in Nigeria. So initially, I believe that when the Nigeria became independent from the UK, I believe the naira was equivalent to the British pound. So it was 1-to-1, right? So 1 pound used to be 1 naira. I don't know what it is, Jake. Maybe you can look it up today.
Yeah, I gotcha.
It'll be 1 pound will be several thousand naira. I don't know how many it is right now. I'm kind of curious.
Let's see, 1,832. It's a little bit of inflation.
Okay.
Yeah. And the
So yeah,
British pound has been devaluing as well. So
exactly,
yeah, that
exactly. When
looks
my
a little
dad
tough.
first when my dad first went to the UK, I mean, his annual salary was £4,000 a year as a medical doctor.
Okay.
And that was in the 70s. So imagine
This is
like
pretty recent too. It was 550 in 2023. So it's tripled since then. And
yeah, exactly.
while I believe the pound's been devaluing as well. So
Yeah. And what's
wow.
crazier is, the naira is not the worst performing currency out there, right? I mean, look at the
Oh yeah.
Zimbabwean dollar. Remember the Zimbabwean dollar? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mark's got
I
one
had
of
a
those
call.
in the office actually. It's like a,
Oh yeah,
a,
the
a
trillion
billion
dollar note.
dollar note or $1 trillion note. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, I remember that period fairly well because I was in boarding school at the time, and my school was very international. So I had a couple friends from Zimbabwe. So I remember like at the time, I remember my friends coming into school and they'd have like these 100 billion, 500, like $1 trillion notes in there. Like
I'm a
I remember
trillionaire. The first
and
trillionaire. Everyone's talking
and
about
I was just
Elon.
like,
They don't know about the kids from Zimbabwe,
bro, I was just like, what even is this? I mean, to this day, I still don't think they have their own currency. Like they've never recovered from that. And that was
Yeah,
like
wow.
20 something years ago.
And
Um,
what did that look like? Like what was happening in these kids' lives? Were they just like, yeah,
it's a good
yeah,
question. These would have been kids who are like obviously relatively well off to be able to go to a private British boarding school. So I
mhm.
would assume their parents were probably, if not earning, at least saving in pounds or dollars or South African rand or something that's a little more stable because
Was this in the
Zimbabwe at the
UK,
time,
by the way?
yeah, well, my school was in the UK, yeah. So I'm
Okay,
talking
gotcha.
about like a couple Zimbabwean guys that I went to school with. So we're like
Yeah, yeah.
14, 15 years old at the time.
Okay.
But when I'm at that age, yeah, I wasn't super conscious about inflation and what causes it and money printing and all of that stuff. But I was just amazed that you could have like $1 trillion note, which could not buy you a loaf of bread. Right. I was like, okay, there's something going on there. So maybe that planted the seed for me to become like a future Bitcoiner. Um, but yeah, I mean, with the Naira specifically, so I don't know if I learned any lessons directly from my parents about that, partly because, you know, I never lived in Nigeria myself. So I'm the youngest of 5 siblings. So all of my older siblings at least lived in Nigeria for some time. But because of my age, we moved to Saudi Arabia when I was a baby. So, I was, I have no recollection of my parents working and living in Nigeria. I remember them working and living in Saudi Arabia, of course. And in that case, you're not earning a super unstable currency. So, but I do remember like every time we would go to Nigeria maybe every 1.5 to 2 years. And I do remember like every time you go back, like the exchange rate has just, I don't know, like I can at least, I feel like in my mind, I can remember when it was like, when £1 was like 50 or maybe 100 naira. I remember when it hit 500. I remember when it hit 1 to 500 and then like we went to 1,000. I think it's gone like over 2,000 many times. Like it's just, I don't know, but it does make you think and realize like, gosh, man, we complain, we in the West, right? People in the UK, people in Europe, people in the US, Canada, we complain about inflation, right? Especially as Bitcoin-minded folks. But when you think of those numbers you were saying, right? Someone has to actually think like, if you're talking about a 70% inflation rate, like someone needs to think of this just in practical terms. Let's say you earn and save, let's say you save $10,000. Okay. That means the following year, 365 days from now, that $10,000 is now worth $3,000. And then the next year,
you cannot plan for the future.
That 3,000 has cut down to like in the hundreds, right? Like,
but you make a 2-year plan and you're devastated. Yeah.
Yeah, you can. How do you save for a house? How do you save for like?
It's like sad.
It's
actually.
just
it's really sad.
Yeah, it's very sad, and there are so many countries with so many people around the world. Because you have to remember, the countries with the highest inflation rates also, not in all cases, but they tend to be like pretty populous countries. Like Nigeria is the most populous country in all of Africa, and there, across Africa, you've got like 1 billion plus people, and almost none of the countries there have stable currencies. And it's just like, how can you have and preserve wealth if for the vast majority of the population, even if they're working hard, any attempt to save just gets destroyed, right? Like people don't think about that. Like we're used to maybe like 4%, 5%, like when it goes crazy, like 7, 8, 9% inflation. Like, whoa, like that's terrible from an American perspective. But if you're thinking there's places where it's like 10x that, like every single time it's just getting slashed in half, getting slashed by 75%. And it's just like, man, unless you're able to get access to other currencies, then you're just in trouble. You're just spinning the wheels. You're just on this, you're trying to run the rat race, but you can't even save what you're making from the rat race. So that's why people have like, lots of people have like very short-term thinking. When things are like that, obviously crime becomes a lot more appealing. And people's it changes the entire mentality, because if you can't rely on the fact that you can put some money away and then you can come back 6 months, 1 year, 10 years from now and still have that purchasing power, then it directly discourages you from saving. Because it's
you're brutally punished.
Why would I do it?
You're brutally punished for helping other people and storing your economic energy. It's like if you're a productive, helpful citizen, you are like massacred for doing so. So you might as well so a lot of people go, all right, well, at the very least, you can't sit on dollars. You can't sit on naira, right? You can't sit on your fiat currency. And so you have to constantly be running from this inflation monster chasing you down, which has to have a lot of psychological impacts, a lot of cultural impacts. Like we see that here in the US, we see those effects, but yeah, you 10x them.
10x it. Yeah, 10x it. 10x it. Yeah, like I said, we already know in the US, in the UK, we already know how devastating over the course of time the fiat inflation is. And everyone complains about it. It's just that most people don't really know what it is. That's the crazy thing. Like people are always complaining about the cost of living, housing is unaffordable. Oh my gosh, the food prices. Oh my gosh, the gas prices, right? Like in all of these countries, people are always complaining about it, but very few people actually connect the dots. The very few people actually know, oh, this is because the central banks are just like printing infinite money, and because there's just this whole fractional reserve banking system where they can like just press a button and magic money out of nowhere, and the money in your bank isn't in the bank and it's not really money and they don't even have it, right? It's just
Yeah, yeah, right.
like you go down these rabbit holes and you're just like,
Uh-huh.
this is this
It's
is
all
crazy.
smoke
Like,
and mirrors, all smoke and mirrors, and it stays alive by continuing to deceive people, right? Like, it's already
yeah,
insolvent, the system's already irreparably broken, but it's able to avoid that collapse by maintaining the smoke and mirrors and being like, "Just keep playing along with my Ponzi scheme, you know, it's gonna work out."